You ever notice we are absolutely spectacular and completely ridiculous at the exact same time? Like, we can build skyscrapers, perform heart surgery, invent music, raise children, create art, save strangers, survive trauma, and somehow still panic because somebody replied, K. One letter. And suddenly we're staring at the screen like FBI analysts. What did they mean by that? Well, probably okay, or sounds good. That's probably what they meant. A fast food place forgets one sauce packet, and somebody is online writing, "This generation has completely lost respect." Sir, it was ranch, not the fall of Rome. And neighborhood Facebook groups, oh, those things are one missing recycling bin away from complete societal collapse. Whoever moved my trash can? It rolled 4 feet in the wind. Please hydrate. And honestly, part of me thinks it's hilarious. But another part of me keeps wondering, how can we be so advanced, yet so emotionally exhausted by the small stuff? Let's get into it.
Hey, Stephie Kay got something to say. Talk that listens, clears the way. Truth on the mic, grounded in change. You sticking with that? Oh yeah, we sticking with that. Laugh it out, talk it through, we ain't looking back.
Some chats ain't easy, but we take it slow. Tough stuff tackle now, watch us glow.
You sticking with that? Yeah, we sticking with
Happy Wednesday, everyone, and welcome back to You Stickin With That? I'm Stephie Kay, and today's episode is kind of a ride. We're talking about why humans are spectacular, why we overreact, why some people help strangers and some don't, social media exhaustion, and somehow all of this actually connects. So buckle up, buttercups. This episode is called Much Ado About Something. Now, I don't think people are freaking out over nothing. I think people are overloaded. And there's a difference. We as human beings really are incredible. Let's think about this for a second. We can sense danger, read emotion, invent miracles, and help complete strangers that we've never met. That's incredible. And women, especially right now, I think a lot of us are remembering who we are again. Women have always been powerful. Not because we were the loudest, but because we endured. We adapted, we held families together, we worked through pain, we love through exhaustion. We build lives and systems that often underestimate us. What's crazy is, did you know women couldn't even open their own bank account independently until 1974? Think about that. That's not the 1800s. That's recent. That's within living memory. Rosie the Riveter stepped in during World War II. Women built, worked, held homes together, raised generations, and now modern women are reclaiming something deeper. Not becoming harder, but remembering their value, and that matters. Looking back now, it would appear, whether intentional or not, I do think modern systems sometimes pull families away from connection instead of toward it. And when parents are overwhelmed, overworked, distracted, and exhausted, the family unit naturally feels the strain. And with Rosie the Riveter and the women's movement, that was maybe an effect that everyday American didn't see coming. And a side note on that, they were able to tax us women too when we started working. Instead of just the men, now they got double taxes from everybody, which is cool for them, which is something maybe we didn't realize. A few years back, my friend Marianne gave me a pin, and it said, "Well-behaved women seldom make history." And it's a quote by Laurel Thatcher Ulrich. So I got a t-shirt with the quote on it, and I was wearing it the other day with some people I had never met. And this lady said to me, "Well, why on earth would anyone want to make history?" And I said, "Well, that's a very good question." And then I thought about it after the fact, and I thought, well, I guess it depends on what side of history you're on. I also thought it was a strange comment for a stranger to make, and perhaps she falls in the well-behaved column. I don't know, but I thought the story was worth sharing. And one of the most beautiful parts is that we are also capable of unbelievable things. We help strangers. We rebuild after storms. We donate to people we've never met. We forgive people who hurt us. We build businesses at 55. We invent incredible things. That's all spectacular. And maybe the most incredible thing is that we are unfinished. We can change. A shy kid becomes a leader. A struggling parent breaks a family cycle. A lonely person finds community. A broken person learns how to laugh again. And that matters. Because we're not spectacular because we're perfect. I mean, we lose our phones while holding our phones. We walk into rooms and forget why. We pay money to do escape rooms during a time in history where everybody already feels trapped. Explain that. But despite all of it, we still create art, still fall in love, still work hard, still have compassion, still build empires, still tell stories, still hope. And maybe that's the whole point. Not perfection, just continuing to show up for each other anyway. And in my opinion, we are about to find out we are important and spectacular in ways we can't even comprehend. I want to share 2 stories that made me stop and think, and maybe they'll do the same for you. 2 years ago when I piled all my belongings in my little car and drove to Florida to live, my car was to the brim full of stuff. You know, you couldn't see. I mean, the passenger side was completely full. The back was full. It didn't seem like there was hardly an inch of space. When I had maybe 2 hours left in my 3-day drive, I stopped for gas one last time. And there was a gal there who was in distress and she was crying, and she approached me and said she needed to get to her son in some city that was going to be maybe 1 hour out of my way. And all I could think of was, well, there's no way I can help her because there's no room in my car. She was traveling with a truck driver, and it seemed to me maybe there was also a bit of a safety issue there. So the immediate thoughts came to me are, the safety concerns and the things your mom always tells you, well, don't pick up strangers at a gas station and drive them. But I did that, and I told my friend Linda that I was doing it, and she was really the only one that knew, because I thought if I let anyone in my family know, they'd be pretty upset with me. Anyway, I decided to leave some things behind for the next person at the gas station. Like, I think I had some sheets in a laundry basket, and I was able to move most of the other things around and find room where there was no room, and made room for her in the passenger seat. So off we went. Well, as we continued down the road, it turns out she had just recently gotten out of prison and there were some other issues involved. That was fun. And when I got within 1 mile of the destination to bring her to her son, she changed the location to her brother's house, which, looking back now, I'll never know, but it appeared as though it was her drug dealer's location. And we took a picture of us for the memory, because that's what I do. And she says, well, something about I'd get out of here real fast because my brother doesn't like lingering. So that was cool. And so turns out my 1 hour or so out of the way ended up adding 3 hours to my trip. I mean, would I do that again? Probably not. But what I've learned is it's not my place to judge. It's my place to help. And I saw a need. And did I think at the beginning perhaps she was counting on my good nature to help her in a made-up situation? Yep. I just went with my instinct, and my instinct said to help her out. And it makes for a good story now. As I've traveled around the country, many cities have a homeless problem. And, a lot of us will be approached at a stoplight, with a person with a sign needing some assistance. And I think a lot of us are busy and we don't have a lot of extra, so we just ignore it and move on. Very seldom do I ever have cash on me. But if I do have a couple bucks and the timing's right with the stoplight, if you know what I mean, I will definitely help. And somewhere along the line, we got to the point where, you would hear, well, don't help them. They're just going to use the money on drugs, or they're just going to waste it. But what I've learned is it's not my place to judge. It's my place to help if the situation comes up. And that's it. For anyone who's had to ever fundraise for any trip or organization that they've been a part of, and there's a lot of us that have done that, have to sell candy or tons of car washes, and we sold frozen food for years and a number of different things. It's not super fun, but you do it because, you're working hard to get somewhere, whether it's a trip or Sometimes we have the opportunity to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. And fundraising and other forms of hard work are a way to get there. And once you've learned that, as I have, both as an athlete and a coach, you wouldn't be standing there unless you had to, which is why I always try to show some compassion. We don't always know somebody's full story, but we do know that human beings deserve dignity. Life can humble us faster than anybody realizes. The world already has enough people looking away, which is why I try to be someone who notices. And at the end of the day, it's not my place to judge. For my Stephie Kay thought of the day, I had a situation come up about appetizers. I was on a hike with some new people a couple weeks ago, and we went to lunch after. And one of the people at the table ordered appetizers to share. So as the appetizers are being passed around, one of the gals says, well, I'd like to take one. I only want half. Could I cut one in half? And the lady next to her said, well, I don't know. You'll have to ask the person that bought them. And for some reason, I was so floored by that. I've been at many business dinners and many big group meals, and never once would I have thought to ask if I could split an appetizer. So I would say maybe people don't know. The general rule would be if an appetizer is being passed around, you can choose to take it or not, split it in half or not. I mean, by all means, use a clean knife and fork. Nobody wants a double dipping, but that's something I wouldn't have even thought to ask. But if you didn't know, now you know. I would say once appetizers are being passed around, they're a free game. In last week's episode, we covered how AI can't hug you back and the role that AI is playing in our lives. And I think the episode gave us a new way to look at it. There's so much going on in the world right now, and it seems like it can appear as though things are spinning out of control. I think a lot of that is what we're putting into our brains. I had a former boss who would say, be careful who you follow. And I think sometimes we look to places for information, and they can give us some really good information, right? And then maybe something that doesn't resonate with us at the end. Like, this is good. And then maybe at the end they throw in something scary or something that you're thinking, well, that can't be true. I think for me, in an effort to find peace, I had to let all that go and really take time to look within instead. In my opinion, the reason a lot of us are anxious is we're following the wrong people. Maybe we're following people that want us to be upset or want us to be anxious. And if you want to test it out, whether it's a podcast or a YouTube link or whatnot, remove it for a couple days and see how you feel. Are you more calm? Are you more stable? And that's your answer. I'm very, very careful these days of what I see, what I hear. Very selective, let's just say. And it really has made all the difference. And you might be thinking, well, how am I going to know if this is happening if I don't pay attention? I have found that the right information will always get to you at the right time. There might be some of you out there that like scary movies, for example, and then you're always living in a state of fear. Or you find yourself watching the news 24/7 and you wonder why you can't sleep, right? As you know, I'm a huge advocate for getting outside. I was born and raised in Minnesota where we had lakes and trees everywhere. But growing up, I didn't appreciate any of it. I was pretty much in the house most of the time. And they always say hindsight's 20/20. But at the same time, I have no regret, because if I would have changed even one thing, I wouldn't be here with you all today. I think that's important. And that goes for music too. If you're constantly listening to music that upsets you in some kind of way or makes you sad, you'll be sad. So change the kind of music you're listening to. Everything matters. And it can be one small step in the right direction that changes our perspective and ultimately changes everything. There's a story that I would share with my dancers, not every season, but just when I felt a group needed it. And I'm compelled to share it with you now. I tried to look back and find the original author, and I'm not able to do so. But I actually had this story saved in my phone from April 5th of 2022. And I was going to do a public post on it and never got around to it. And the interesting thing, there's another social media influencer out there who covered this story this week on his channel. And I'd never heard anyone share the story before, besides me. I used to print this off and send it home. And the story goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a group of tiny frogs who arranged a competition. The goal was to reach the top of a tower. A huge crowd of frogs gathered to watch the race and cheer on the contestants. The race began. Not one frog in the audience believed that the contestants would reach the top. After all, it was a huge tower. The crowd grew and many yelled, "Oh, that's way too difficult. They will never make it to the top. There's no chance they'll succeed. The tower is too high." One by one, the tiny frogs collapsed and fell off the tower. Still, there was a group of determined frogs that climbed higher and higher. The crowd continued to yell, "It's too difficult. No one will make it." Discouraged and convinced by the negative cries, more of these tiny frogs collapsed and fell off the tower. Many frogs who were still climbing complained of the pain and eventually gave up. Some frogs, tired and battered, heard their peers' complaints and subsequently threw in the towel too. In the midst of this, one tiny frog persisted. He climbed, and he climbed, and he climbed. This tiny frog seemed to have super frog strength that allowed him to push forward in spite of others failing. Why, though? Why is he able to climb so far when others are failing? The crowd wondered. By now, all the tiny frogs had either collapsed or given up, except for that one tiny frog. The crowd continued to yell now at the tiny frog. "This is too difficult. You will never make it to the top. You better give up now while you can." But for some reason, that tiny frog climbed further, seemingly undaunted and unaffected. Finally, he reached the top of the tower. He had reached his destination. All the tiny frogs were amazed how this one frog was able to make it to the top. They crowded around him, wanting to know his secret. As it turned out, he was deaf. And maybe that's a lesson in all of this. Sometimes the reason people never make it to the top isn't because they couldn't. It's because they listen to too many voices. In a world full of noise, maybe the healthiest thing we can do sometimes is turn off everything, go outside, Togo. And remember, not every opinion deserves a seat in your head, because life's already become much ado about something. As we continue through this week, maybe it's time to really notice what we're putting into our minds, who we're listening to, and how it's shaping the way we feel, think, react, and treat people. Notice how you feel after hours of scrolling. Notice what constantly keeps you emotionally stirred up. Because not everything deserves access to your mind every day. And the good news is, we still have choice. We have the freedom to pause, to change direction, to protect our peace, to stop feeding emotional chaos, and to become more intentional about where our energy goes. Maybe somewhere along the way, the message got a little distorted. Somehow, strong women slowly became women feeling like they had to carry everything alone. And now, I think a lot of women are trying to find balance again. Not becoming smaller, not giving away their voice, not competing with men, just reconnecting with themselves. People might call it divine feminine energy now. But honestly, I think some of it's simply women remembering this is my space too, and I can own it while still being kind, compassionate, and empathetic. And I think we see now, healthy relationships were never supposed to be about one person overpowering the other anyway. Maybe they're always supposed to be partnership, which kind of brings us back to the frog story. Because the louder the world gets, the more opinions everybody has about who women should be, who men should be, what relationships should be. And if you listen to every voice in the crowd long enough, you eventually forget your own. I'm Stephie Kay, and I am sticking with that. Remember, new episodes come out Wednesday nights at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. If someone came to mind as you were listening to this episode, please pass it on. Until next time, keep the conversation going and keep listening with heart. I love you guys. Have a great week.